Hello and welcome to Pivotal People. Today we're going to be speaking to Paul Birley. Paul was Head of Healthcare at Barclays. Hello Paul, thank you so much for joining us today. I know we've met before and we know each other a little bit. But what I want to do in this interview is I'd like to take you back to what brought you into the career in care. It is what it is. You worked for Barclays, you were Head of Healthcare, you were in and out of care homes. So can you take me back and just talk me through how you got to the point of being Head of Healthcare at Barclays?
I joined Barclays on the 3rd of September 1981. It is a date ingrained on my heart. I thought I was going to be there for a couple of years, maybe do the management training program, which is what I was on. I ended up staying there till 2018.
So young boy, straight out of university?
Straight out of university, onto a training program, and it was a 4 or 5 year training program. So I started in the machine room and worked my way up to becoming an assistant manager. The healthcare team started in 2001, but there were probably, I think, 3 pivotal days or moments within the 37 years I worked for Barclays.
Yeah.
First one came when I'd just become appointed as a manager, and there was a possibility of me going onto some sort of accelerated program. And well, for whatever reason, I didn't perform maybe that well on the day. And I got brought back into head office and was told my career was going to be probably a couple more promotions in between 25 or 27 years that I've got left to stay in the bank. Wasn't exactly the most motivational time I had. Anyway, very shortly after that I got a move, and I'd already then achieved one of the promotions, and 8 months later I got another promotion. So within the space of probably 18 months I'd got to where the bank told me I was going to be, and that was my first lesson. Sometimes people tell you things, but it's not down to them, it's down to you and what you make of it. Now I use that opportunity, I now see it as an opportunity, as something motivational, rather than something that demotivated me and made me want to leave the bank. And I think it's how you look at things will determine how you can then take it forward. That was the first one. So my second pivotal moment was around 2001, and the bank had gone out and asked its clients what they wanted to hear from bank managers.
Okay.
And one of the things clients came back with was they didn't want them to be detailed experts of the sector, but they wanted to have some understanding of maybe the language and the nuances. So I'd built up a reasonable healthcare portfolio at that time, looking after some care home operators and some hospital groups. And for me, it was a very logical step to move into healthcare. I'd got an interest in it, I liked the clients, and the thing about the clients I really liked was they cared. And I suppose when I look back, if ever I went into an operator or a care home operator who the first thing they started talking about was the profit they were going to make, it was a pretty short conversation. So what I wanted to hear was the difference they were making to the people they looked after, quality of care, personal centric care, whatever you want to do or call it, that was the differentiator. Clearly, they had to make a return afterwards, and it depended what sort of operator you were and what sort of market, but that was the difference.
Yeah, it's very difficult to make a profit when you haven't got that excellent care in the first place. So you're right, that way round.
It's a balance.
Absolutely.
It's a balance. If you don't get the care right, you're not going to make any money, and if you're not making any money, you certainly won't deliver quality care. So that was the second one. And the third one was the bank gave me the opportunity to go to Wharton College in America on a leadership course. And as part of this course, we got to go around the battlefield at Gettysburg. It's a fascinating battle if anyone wants to read about it. But we got to walk up a hill, which was called Little Round Top. I think that's what it was called. And at that point, the South were attacking and the North were defending the top. And one of the generals got up on this rock on Little Round Top and gave a motivational speech. He got his head blown off.
During his speech?
During his speech to the troops. What I wanted to do convinced me that I wanted to do the leadership route, and I wanted to get up on that rock but just not get my head blown off. And I was there 11, 12 years later, so hopefully I achieved some of that.
Fantastic. Okay, what sort of, so going back over the time, what are the lessons that you've learned?
There are a number of lessons, and maybe the first one is that I've still got it in me to write a book. And there are so many times when you go into a care home or you read the press, and it's all about the things that the care home doesn't do. But 99% of the time, the care homes deliver great care. And I've seen so many examples of where the carer has made such a difference. And I'll give you two very quick examples. One is a care home, and the carer used to come in and see Mary every day. Mary had dementia and was bedridden. And the carer would come in and say, Mary, what would you like to wear today? No answer. Mary was then put in a chair and taken down to the day room. And this went in day on, day out. Until one day the carer came in and said, Mary, what would you like to wear today? And Mary turned around and said, the blue dress, please. And that's the difference. Those little things can make all the difference.
Yeah.
There was another example of a care home where they had I think it was called a seaside day or something like, encouraging people to come into the care home. Yeah. And they'd arrange for donkeys and a coconut shy and all that kind of stuff. And one of the ladies in palliative care on the 3rd floor loved donkeys, and her family knew this, and they came in on the day, and they came to the care home manager and said, is there any chance that we can bring the donkeys up to see Mum, because she loves donkeys? Well, actually, they first of all asked if they could take Mum down to see the donkeys, but she was in palliative care and very frail. So the care home manager arranged with the donkey man to bring the donkeys up. And I didn't know this, but donkeys either can't go up or downstairs, so they had to go in the lift. Well, these donkeys had a great fun in the lift, and the carers and the staff spent some time clearing up. Anyway, they got the donkeys up there, and the family were really, really happy with the way, and they took lovely pictures of Mum and the donkey. Mum was really happy, and the donkeys then went down and carried on giving the children rides. As happens in palliative care, unfortunately, the lady died a few days later. But this care home have a memorial service every 6 months, and they encourage families to come back and bring reminders of the loved one that has departed. And that family brought back the pictures of Mum and the donkey.
Fantastic.
And isn't it those little things that just make all the difference?
They're not little things, they're huge things. About, if that carer hadn't kept asking Mary what she wanted to wear, she would never have got to the point she'd asked for the blue dress.
No.
And the effort involved in getting that donkey upstairs. I know we used to get horses when I was at one of my homes I managed, little tiny horses, and we used to get them in the lift, and it's not easy. Quite fun, but not easy.
There are a number of other lessons I think I've learned. One is I try to do a day's work experience every sort of 9 months or so, just so I could just get a feel for what was on the shop floor, so to speak. And I did this after we lent our first big money to an operator. And I wanted to go and find out if what the CEO and the CFO and everybody at the head was telling me was actually reflected by the people that delivered the care.
Yeah.
Well, in this case, it absolutely was. They were dedicated, they were absolutely enthusiastic, and the home was lovely. And at the end of the day, I asked them, I said, is there anything you change or would you like? And they said two things. One was a new dishwasher, because their dishwasher had broken down that day. And lo and behold, a new dishwasher turned up the next day. Yeah. And the second thing was, we never see anyone from head office. And yes, we see our regional manager, but we don't see any of the people from head office. And it dawned on me just how important it is that the senior executives get out and see the people that are delivering the care. Yeah. And there are a number of examples of clients that we had where I know that's the case. I spent one day with a CEO, and we must have seen 6 care homes in a day. It probably was one of a pretty tiring day, but he was there and he was known to his staff, and that to me was absolutely key.
Yeah.
The second one is, and it sort of stems from that a little bit, is that if there was ever going to be an issue, it was in the care home that was furthest from head office.
That's true.
And I think that reflects the fact that you get diseconomies of scale when you get to a certain size. So I think people, when they think they've got a big care home group, you're going to get economies of scale. In my experience, that's not the case. Now, I think technology will help,
Well, yeah.
but it will never substitute the delivery of care and interpersonal relationships, because that to me is what care is all about. The other lesson, I loved going around, I did, love is perhaps too strong a word, but I did really like going around care homes. And they were inspirational places. And I always remember Julia Unwin, sort of fairly early in my road down care, saying that she saw the care home as a university for the older person. You never stop learning. And I agree with that, because I think it's stimulation of when you're in there, and it doesn't matter what condition or state you are, you can be stimulated in different ways. However, going into a care home, when you walk down the driveway and you look at this lovely care home and see the dead plants in the baskets, the grass growing out of the guttering, and then the pièce de résistance is blue tack on the front door, you just got that feeling that if we're seeing that, why aren't the carers seeing that? And if they haven't seen that, what else haven't they seen?
Yeah, that's a good point.
And then, obviously, if you walk through the door and you get hit with something, then that's not great. But the other thing I used to like talking about and looking at was the linen cupboard. The linen cupboard to me was a pretty good telltale sign of how good the care home was. If it was pristine, it wasn't being used enough. If it was chaotic, it probably meant the care home was chaotic. However, if it was nicely ruffled in an organised manner, the care home typically was delivering great care. And it was also a great conversational piece to have with the care home manager, because it wasn't talking about how the care home was performing on CQC inspections. It was getting down to some of the detail. And it's the little things, as I said with Mary, it's the little things that make a difference.
It is. That linen cupboard thing, I think I'm going to take that with me when I go into care homes now, and I'm going to use that. That's a really, really good point. You know, that linen cupboard is, it's busy. It's a busy part of the home. It does need somebody keeping on top of it, but on the other hand, if it's pristine, it's not quite so good, is it?
No.
That's a really good one. I'll keep that one. Okay. So just tell me a little bit about what you do now, what you do for Fulcrum, for example.
Well, I did 37 years for Barclays, and I got to a point where I was really enjoying my job, but wanted to do a little bit more or different.
Yeah.
So in 2018, I left the bank and didn't do anything for 6 months. In fact, I had a month in Edinburgh at the Fringe, which was fantastic.
Wow, yeah.
We saw 240 different acts in the
brilliant.
month. And at the end of that, I thought, I've had 25 years doing healthcare. I don't want to lose all that. So I put a few calls out, and one of the calls I got back was from Tony at Fulcrum. So for about 5 years now, it might even be over that. I was talking to Tony recently, and I think it's just over 5 years. I've been advising Fulcrum on Tony's growth strategy and how the business moves forward. I also, shortly after that, started doing a bit of advisory work with Connell Consulting and Claire. And the two are quite complementary.
Yes.
In that they're all, both businesses are run by inspirational people who've got a drive and enthusiasm which is infectious.
Absolutely, yeah.
I've also done a little bit of work with a whistleblowing company called Say So. Again, it's all about how you can improve delivery of care. And the last thing is I'm chair of a relatively small charity called Adopt a Grandparent, which puts 18 to 40-year-olds in contact with people in care homes to share experiences, which has been also very rewarding. So it's a mixed bunch, but it keeps my hand in.
Absolutely.
And I keep bumping into people from the sector, because the sector is, it's a nice sector to be in.
Good people. There's some very good people. There's some really interesting people, and I found that doing this job, doing these interviews, that we've found some amazing stories within those people, and what you've given us today has been really fascinating, and I think I'm going to take a lot away from that. I know how much you give Fulcrum, and I know what a massive support you are to Tony and the business, and we really appreciate that as people, as Fulcrum people. So thank you for what you do there, and thank you for what you've done over your career. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.